What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 3 of Tactical Minds podcast. Today, we're going to be going over deployment. So, just to be transparent a little bit, there are going to be some things that I do leave out for this episode that happened during the deployment, just because I'm not quite there yet of talking about those things. I'm still sort of working through those things, and like I'm not quite there yet of letting out some of the things that happened to me on deployment. But when I am, which I know I will be eventually, we'll make a part 2 of this video, just explaining a little bit more in detail of what did happen. So just let you guys know. If you guys have any suggestions at all about video quality or anything like that, questions you might want to ask, feel free to let me know. I'm open to anything so far. I'm trying a little bit of a different setup here. Let me know if you guys hear any unwanted background noise or anything like that. I have a little mic on. I don't know if it's gonna be better quality than the iPhone of what the iPhone picks up. So if it's not, please let me know and we will work through that. So without further ado, let's get started. I just got some notes right here to help me from rambling on so much because I do tend to do that. So I first left for deployment February of 2019. So my mindset about leaving, um, it was I had a couple of months to prepare myself. I had gone to my unit. Everyone had already gone home from block leave, like I said. So we're sort of the outsiders coming in, me and a group of new soldiers. So a lot of the guys there hailed resentment towards us because we didn't go through the grueling training months before that they did to prepare for the deployment, and such as like NTC and Pinion Canyon, for example. If you're from Fort Carson, you know exactly what that is. If not, it's a I can't really share my description of that because I've never been, thankfully. But from what I heard from the guys, it was pretty rough. So we already sort of had an even bigger target on our back when we got there, and we were held to a very high standard of knowing, being prepared and knowing what our job was, and at the same time, getting to know the guys and females. I'm just going to say guys, which means females and males because it was the first gender integrated combat unit that my unit had at the time. So everyone was still trying to navigate that situation. So being a female, I had to really like prove my point and prove that I belonged. So my mindset going in was to do the best that I absolutely could, learn as much as I absolutely could. It was a lot of pressure, you know. We all three of us, all three of us females, 3 or 4, I can't remember correctly, got pulled in uh the platoon office, and my platoon sergeant sort of asked, like, you know, who wants to kick down doors? And it was me, another female, and then like the smallest female that we had in the company. And without hesitation, I sort of, you know, like took the initiative and said, I do. So then that led me to being a grenadier. So I had a lot of pressure on my mind, on me to perform well, especially just being out of basic, which anyone that's um, been through the infantry training and everything, you learn the bare minimum. So I had to do my absolute best to try and pack everything into those 3 months, 2, 3 months before deployment, um, of everything that I needed to know, which it wasn't impossible, but I just I had a lot of notes. We could say that. So preparing for deployment, we had like a lot of classes of learning about propaganda, um, that ISIS gives the civilians and everything like that, and clearing rooms, which is the best and worst part about being an infantryman, which I was pretty much the bait man, give or take. Like my squad leader was a no shit leader. Like he was good to us, but he made sure that we knew everything. And if not, then it was going to be a long day. So I was full of motivation at that time. And nobody really, you don't know exactly what you're getting into when you deploy, especially to a combat zone. You know, you only know really the obvious, which is to be on your toes because there's people that are going to be trying to kill you or wish bad on you. So I was fired up and ready to go. Uh, but as well, being highly motivated at that time, also had to leave my family. I had to leave my girlfriend. So, 19-year-old me, I was, it was definitely hard. Not so much hard about leaving my family, but leaving my girlfriend because I knew, everyone hears the horror stories about Jody, which is the person that your significant other is going to be cheating on you with, um, while you're gone. So I had that in the back of my mind to distract me, which I tried to do my absolute best to try and not let it distract me and hinder me from doing my job correctly so that the soldiers around me and my squad and platoon could count on me 110%. But it was hard, I we didn't know what to expect, obviously, like I said, so we sort of took every goodbye or the last goodbye as if it was the last. Um, and that was a real big eye opener and very emotional, just not knowing if you'll ever see them again. Especially at 19, that's a pretty big pill to swallow. Also, having to write my first will at 19, which I really didn't have much to give at that point, but it still made the situation very real that, oh man, we're actually going. Um so it just really opens your mind up about the dangers of the deployment, even though you know what you signed up for. And I was fully prepared to die over there. I was willing to give my life for my brothers and sisters. um there was no doubt about it. I was ready to die. you know at that time it was sort of like the mindset of a young 19-year-old in the infantry. This mindset is sort of like, if you don't die at on deployment, like what are you doing in your job? And that's a very very toxic way to think. Now that I have obviously grown and been able to sit back and actually evaluate the situation that I was put in at that age, I had a very toxic mindset, which was only geared to myself and the team. Um, so we left at the very end of February 2019. Um, got into country, we got into Kuwait first, and I'll never forget it. Getting off that plane, we landed in Kuwait. I don't remember the exact time, but sometime at night, and it was just so quiet. But you're like, holy shit, I'm actually not on American soil anymore. I'm in Kuwait, somewhere where you see on the news going to a war per se that is as old as me. That really puts some hair on your chest a little bit. But again, I was fully prepared for my life to end over there. So we landed in Kuwait, got to Buring, Camp Buring. We were there for about 2, 3 weeks, just getting everything in order to finally make our way into Iraq. And my platoon was the last platoon to enter Iraq. So there had already been a presence of my company there. Um, Nobody really knew what to expect. Like my squad leader was like, have your head on a swivel. We don't know what we're getting into. Treat every situation as if you're getting shot at, or just have that mindset at least of obviously complacency kills. There's no room for complacency on deployment. So our main job was getting to the Mosul Dam and sort of just having a presence there as the Trevi, the company Trevi and Army engineers finished the Mosul Dam project since just a couple of years before. The Mosul Dam was pretty much ran by ISIS. So a lot of people were scared, and the biggest threat of ISIS holding the Mosul Dam captive was them, I guess, blowing up the dam. And if that dam broke, about like 90% of Iraq would have been like flooded, from what the information I gathered. So it was a pretty big deal. Um, we were in northern Iraq, so when we got there, everything was still green. It looked like freaking Ireland. Like you see Iraq on TV and in the movies, and it looked nothing like that. Where we were at, so it was definitely a culture shock. Like not everything you see on TV and in movies is what it is in reality. So being a young soldier, you had to try and navigate switching your mindset to reality rather than what you prepared yourself for, but still being prepared in that mindset and that state of mind while adapting to what situation and what place you were actually dropped into. So that took up a lot of my time. Um, so we sort of just had, towards the beginning, it was pretty quiet. I would say we had a lot of guard shifts, tower guard. Um, Eventually, we had patrols going to the IDF checkpoints. Um, So we got to see a lot of the surrounding communities and how they actually lived, which was like you'd see some places and you'd question like how the hell did somebody even live in there? Um, but one thing that was pretty much the same in the movies and stuff like that was the kids, or just the civilians in general. When they see the army rolling through the map V's and stuff, just they would just be in awe. Like they would just crowd around the patrol. Some of them flipped me off because I was usually the gunner, being the lowest man. So I got a like first hand view of it. Um, going out on patrols and everything like that. There was a lot of the tensions weren't too high yet. There was the older generation of the Iraqis were still sort of against us. Obviously, just because they were around for the initial Iraq invasion. So their view of Americans was already pretty much soured. The younger version of Iraqis were sort of welcoming because they saw the transition from us being sort of the enemies to being there to help them and safeguard them pretty much from ISIS or anyone that was a threat to them. So about 2, 3 months into my deployment, just working guard shifts, my relationship sort of went downhill pretty fast. I just wasn't there emotionally to, I guess you could say, I stopped giving a damn about it and stopped putting so much energy into it just because I was putting so much energy into trying to be able to make sure that my team could count on me. So there that started with the infidelity. I had sort of I did there was infidelity on both sides of the relationship. I'll be the first to say that. Not trying to make one side of it better, sound better, or be better or not. We both did things that we made mistakes on both sides, and communication was scarce. Um, so I had, started talking to someone else just to really, honestly, like take my mind off of the fact that my relationship was failing and the fact that I was in another country and I was missing my family, I was missing home, and the fact that I was just emotionally starting to drain. It was like a breath of fresh air, and it sort of made it seem better to me. Like, oh, well, if I cheat first, then she, she won't be able to cheat on me and hurt me, and it won't affect me as much, which again is a very toxic way to think. Um, so I had ended my relationship while still talking to this other person, and solely I just wanted someone to talk to. Um, Again, I'm not proud of it at all. I really am not. But we were separated for about 2 months, I'd say. But me and my girlfriend had still talked throughout that time while I was still talking to this other person. And something had happened um, over in Iraq that sort of just changed me. Um, and this person that I was talking to, she didn't really care much about helping me emotionally and being there for me emotionally. So that was sort of like, my turning point and realization that I messed up. I made the wrong decision. So, with that being said, I had that same night that something had happened to me. I went to, I got off my guard shift, which was about like 3 days in total, I believe. Um, I got back to my room and sat down on my bed, took off all my gear, and felt the most loneliest that I had felt in my life up to that point. Like everything was running through my mind like, damn, I'm stuck in this country. I made a decision that I didn't think I could come back from. My life was going to be different, I thought at that point, and I was already just so exhausted at that moment in time that I had thought the only way out was to give up. So I this was the first time that I had tried to commit to unalive myself, so I don't get shadow banned. I tried to unalive myself for the first time. So I was alone in my room. I shared my room with about three other females. All of them were gone at this point, on shift or off doing whatever it is they do. And I my gun was already loaded. So I grabbed it, didn't have to put around in the chamber or nothing, just grabbed it, set it between my legs, sitting on the edge of my bed, my rifle in between my legs, staring at the barrel, staring into the barrel, while really nothing is going through my mind, but everything was going through my mind at that point about all the mistakes I had made already up to that point, alone in the deployment. So I flicked safety switch off to fire. Was holding the barrel, just staring down. It seemed like forever. Probably wasn't. I had sort of blacked out. I was just sort of holding the weapon there for a minute, and um, right as I had grown the confidence to pull the trigger, somebody had walked in, like literally intervened, me changing my life forever. So, and she saw me there, sitting there, staring down my barrel, fucking, something not normal. So she came in, shut the door, and she's like, "Pal, what the fuck are you doing?" Like, and I'm like, "Oh, I'm just quickly turn the safety off from fire to safe." And I'm like, "Oh, I'm just playing around, I'm doing whatever the fuck." And she like went to go get my team leader. I'm like, no, 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 like don't. I don't really remember exactly what I said word for word, but I just brushed it off nonchalantly, like no, like I'm not gonna kill myself, blah blah blah. So that sort of opened up my eyes a little bit, like wow, like God really did intervene at that time. So I accepted like it wasn't my time to go at that point. So that was just sort of stuck in the back of my mind for the rest of the deployment. I had I had just sucked it up really and was like, okay, like I let my feelings get in the way of me doing my job and being in the deployment mindset. So I just brushed it off, put it in the back of my mind, and carried on and did the best that I could at my job. So I asked for advice from my squad leader one night, and he's like, like if you don't fucking get your girlfriend back and admit your wrongs and leave this other chick high and dry, like I will smoke you myself every day until we're done with deployment. And like he was like not joking, like he was no shit serious about it, and I knew it. So I immediately blocked that person. Didn't even tell him goodbye. Like I was like, what, you don't mean that much to me. So eventually, I accepted and admitted my faults to my girlfriend, and eventually, thankfully, we got back together. So that it helped me a little bit. Like I knew everything was right in the universe again. So it helped me clear my mind and get back to doing my job the way it should have been done that whole time. So that leads into complacency on deployment. Um, complacency will definitely kill. Just because nothing happened on deployment at that time, or nothing happens on your deployment, doesn't mean that you should be like, oh, it's gonna be like this forever. It's gonna be like this every day. Same routine. The guy's gonna be walking his little sheep of, or his little herd of sheep or whatever. Don't think anything about it. It's happened every day before. Nothing's gonna happen. There's not gonna be a bomb or something strapped to the fucking sheep. And that is where complacency kills, because you think that mindset every day that it's all gonna be the same every day, every guard shift. And that's where boom, something happens when you least expect it. So everyone was getting complacent at that time because nothing had really happened. And we were just going on patrols and everything. And I got lazy or whatever and went on patrol one day. And my dumbass, it was my job to put the 50 cal together and put it on the turret as the gunner. And there's like this really thick pin that you put in like 50 cal on the mount that holds the 50 cal pretty much obviously on the mount. So I didn't put it in because it was just funky. It didn't go in. You had to really try hard to put it in. Didn't do that. Went on a patrol um, around the Hook, Iraq, which is on the other side of the Mosul Dam. And the roads in Iraq are like fucking pothole central. So we're going down the road at least like 50, well, about 50 miles per hour, fast enough. Hit a pothole, freaking 50 cal jumps up out of the seating in the mount as I'm holding on to it, flying down the highway. Traffic in Iraq has no fucking laws whatsoever. So they're swerving, we're swerving, hitting potholes, jumping up and down. 50 cals, I don't remember if it's the exact weight, but it's fucking heavy. And my dumbass, the 50 cal goes up, pretty much comes off the mount. I'm trying to just act like everything's fine and trying to like put this heavy ass gun back into the mount. The ammo box fucking flies up. That's about, I don't know, like 30 pounds, I'd say. So again, leads back to complacency. Like, just because nothing happens on patrols doesn't mean you should leave the fucking pin out of the 50 cal. Because if you hit a pothole going fast enough, that thing is gonna fly out, hit you in the face, or you're gonna be messing around with this gun. Something is actually gonna happen, and you're gonna have a bad day. So from then on out, I made sure to actually seat the gun right. I learned my lesson with that, and it was, if only I had a GoPro strapped on me, like I was pretty much hanging off the turret trying to get this gun back in the right position while still trying to actually keep an eye out for threats or anything that would hinder our patrol. So, just the lesson is complacency has no room in deployment. If you do deploy, get that shit out before you leave because it will kill you if someone else doesn't. So, we got to tour the Mosul Dam, which was actually pretty cool. I didn't get a lot of pictures, but I have some. I will try and post some. It, I believe, is the biggest dam in that region of the country, I would say, or that region of the world. I'm not too sure, so don't quote me, but seeing that part of, I guess, history reminded me and other people was like why we were there, sort of. You know, you have little subtle reminders of why you're there. Um, and that's sort of just also whenever you deploy, you don't really you're not really fighting for the American people. You're not fighting for your country. You're sort of fighting for someone else. And I'm sure a lot of people could that have served and deployed could get behind that. You know, you try and find a meaning to everything because me protecting a dam isn't serving the American people in a way, I guess. Signed up with one thought in my mind, and that was like, I'm doing this to serve my country. I'm doing this to protect the people back at home that I love. And it's an eye opener that you're not fighting for them anymore. You're not fighting for the American people. You're fighting for your government. You're fighting for another country's government, fighting over oil, water, whatever. Um, you're just another number, and that really takes a toll on you too, as well. So we had been in Iraq for 5 months, 5 or 6 months. We finally left July 7th. I was the first I was a part of a handful of people that were the first out of Iraq. So that was a pretty cool experience, you know. It was nighttime. Everything was getting shut down. It was sort of like a hurry up situation because once everyone knew, all the civilians knew that the Americans were leaving, that's when everything started to get hot. and tension started to rise a little bit. So it was very quick, I guess. Not as quick as our pullout in Syria, though. But back to that, everything was packed. I was waiting for the first bird to come in and pick us up. One of the highs of deployment is just laying on that tarmac or the helipad and looking up at the stars through your night vision goggles. And that was like the most peace I had found in those like 5 months. So eventually we heard the Black Hawk coming in, came down, picked us up. We got out of there. Riding in a Black Hawk is not that damn cool, I will say, because the air, like, I don't know, the way it's made, like, it sucks the air out. Something like that. The airflow is coming in, and you sort of have to, like, hold your lips. Otherwise, it's kind of like being on a roller coaster a little bit, and the wind should, like, hit your face. My dumb ass, my freaking eye pro flies off, so I can't see a damn thing. Had to put my freaking, I don't remember what I put on my face to keep the wind out of my eyes, but a lot of things went wrong for me on this deployment. So we were flying over the Mosul, the actual city of Mosul, and pitch black. Like houses were on fire throughout the distance, the city, and you're like, "Fuck!" Like I'm actually getting out of this shithole. Nobody died, which there were some instances where people almost did die, just because of bad luck, stupidity, whatever. Matt V rolled over while I was on QRF there, and it definitely could have been a whole lot worse. But finally, we get back. We're out of Iraq. We're back in Kuwait. It's like mid July at this point. It's fucking hot. It's 110 in the shade. Um, my company was sort of transitioned to QRF, so everyone was like, everyone. When I say everyone, I really talk about like the rest of the company, like, or the forces around us. Getting back to Kuwait, it got our combat patch on. Everyone is like kind of like gives you smug looks now. You're like, oh, they got their combat patch or whatever. So it's just sort of like whose wiener's bigger than the other at that point. So we're acting as QRF, which is Quick Reaction Force. They deploy us wherever they need us or send us, just they send us wherever they need us. So 2 months pass by. I get switched over from a grenadier to a rifleman to a driver. So I had to learn to drive a frickin' Bradley, which is the worst job that you could have, really. And so it was just sort of a long 2 months of sitting in the heat in the Middle East, freaking something everyone wants to do. Finally, we get orders to go to Syria, which it, we didn't get really told a lot. It was considered like a slick sleeve mission, which is you get told the bare minimum. We didn't know where the hell we were going in Syria. We only got told like 2 weeks, maybe a week before we actually left. But at that point, like it was better than sitting in Kuwait just waiting to go home, because at that point we had no idea when we are going home. So that hindered a lot of people, a lot of soldiers, because we were about halfway through the deployment, and it was just mentally draining. I was dealing with a lot of physical injuries at that point throughout July and August, and I had really bad knee problems, feet problems. I had to get freaking steroid shots. I don't think there were steroid shots in my feet, and I could not walk for like days. So I had the pressure of sort of toughing it out a little bit, acting like I was fine. Which my squad leader was like, are you okay to go on this mission? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, I don't know what the hell we're going to be doing. I don't know if we're going to be rucking or patrolling or whatever. You're going to be able to withstand a patrol that's miles and miles. But there was nothing that would stop me from going to Syria, which I definitely, now I look back at it, I probably should have stayed in Kuwait. Um, so we finally get on the bird to go to Syria. No idea where the hell we're at. It's about dawn. We get off the C-130. C-130 or C-17, I don't remember right correctly. There's like fucking mountains or hills, I guess you could say. The tarmac was dirt. Like the whole base was just like, it was nothing compared to Iraq. Just because it was all solely made by American forces. So it was a shithole compared to Iraq. Um, we get there, we're like, shit, I don't know how long we're gonna be here. We're already tired. I'm tired. I have about this much fight left in me to give. And it's a lot more of guard duties, stuff like that. A lot of patrols. So then I was a driver. So I was driving around my lieutenant at that time, which that was hell. Let me tell you, it was fucking miserable. So we get there, and then about month and a half in, we get notice of Turkey invading Syria again, which has happened a lot over the years. Which this time they're coming in, Turkey's coming in, and Russia's coming in and taking over that region of Syria that we're in. So the first mission, I guess, that we got as me being a driver, we had the sole mission of protecting, I guess, this bridge that sort of let Turkey come in and invade Syria. Just making sure like it wasn't blown up or anything like that to hinder or create any more problems than there already were. So there's this lake next to us. We parked pretty much, the bridge is here, the lake is here. We park, one side of us is the lake, one side of us is like these hills. And we're sitting there. We probably sat there in the Mat B for about 48 hours straight. And my boy, I don't know how real it is or not, claims that there was a freaking mortar dropped right near him, which would have happened to been in the water, which, and bless his heart. No one believed him, but he claims he saw it. Um, and so I was just sort of, scanning the hills through my window. We had about three guys in the back, and then my LT was next to me doing all of the whatever the hell she does. And there was a lot of movement in the hills, which sort of like had everyone on edge. Um, because at that point, rules of engagement were you can't fire unless you're fired upon, like sitting ducks pretty much. We were waiting to get blown up or shot at or whatever until we could do anything. So it was a pretty hairy situation to be in, definitely to say the least. Again, complacency was a big thing on that. And throughout my time in Syria, I had a lot of self-doubt just because of my mental state and my physical well-being. I could no longer at that time run at all. So if anything happened, like I was fucked pretty much. Like I just had to suck it up and push through the pain pretty much. So I had a lot of self-doubt, and that was really hindering my work ethic pretty much. Uh, so my mindset in Syria was a lot what I really didn't have a mindset in Syria. I had sort of given up because I had a lot of stuff go on at home, and that was the longest 2 months of my fucking life. I my team leader probably saved my life countless of times throughout that time. I didn't want to be there anymore. I wanted to go home. I was ready to go home. I was ready to go home, or I was ready to unalive myself, pretty much. And if it wasn't for him, I probably would have unalived myself. But he took it under him to sit there and talk to me every night because he had already had a soldier unalive themselves. So that meant a lot to me and was able to get me through that whole time. So eventually we get orders. The commander in chief at the time was Trump. It was all over the news, I'm sure, which out there we had to pay like $100 a month for fucking internet. So we didn't know much about what was going on at home. Only knew what we were told. So we had to like rapidly pull out because Turkey and Syria were coming like they were no shit fucking coming. And that was an absolute shit show. Like there was a lot of people going to like the gate of where we were at and trying to get in because at that point all the civilians like found out we were leaving and Turkey and Russia were coming in, and it was just a big old fucking shit show. And throughout this deployment it was just sort of a feeling of we were there to help people, but we couldn't sort of, like we had our hands tied behind our backs, like, oh, you need help, but we're just gonna sit here and fucking watch you. And then eventually we're gonna leave you, even though you're asking for help, which not what I signed up to do, not what anybody signed up to do. A lot of the soldiers were upset, like, why the fuck are we leaving? Like obviously they need our help, they want our help, blah blah blah. So it left like a very distasteful taste in all of our mouths. So the pullout was pretty hot. Um, those combat dives and or whatever the hell you call them are no shit. Like we rushed to get on the plane to go home to get out of there as quick as we could, and no shit they took off and then went straight up in the air, and it's like roller coaster of fucking death. And you're like, oh shit, are we crashing or is this supposed to happen? Type deal. And then, throughout that time in Syria too, like the North Carolina or South Carolina National Guard was there, and that sort of rubbed the active duty guys like a wrong way, because like nobody knew like if we could actually trust them to know their shit and to be able to have our back, because a lot of active guys sort of look down on the National Guard guys, which is very viable because they only train they're the weekend warriors, we're the active duty and do it every day of 365, so it was hard, like being on edge, like can we trust you, can we not trust you? um so the hard things about my deployment were, I think the hardest thing besides not being able to help anyone whenever they needed it was the animal abuse, and like you couldn't fucking do anything about it, they that region of the world doesn't really see dogs or cats the way we see them, like that changed my perspective a lot, having to see these motherfuckers beat these dogs in front of us and not being able to do anything about it, like. And then per se, you always hear goat effers, and you never really think it's an actual thing, but it is. Let me tell you, it is. I had to freaking witness it and hear it, like for like an hour straight on a guard duty at night one time in Iraq, and I'm like, bro, this is not fucking it, you know. Um, I will say, very big thing that like wowed me, which probably shouldn't have wowed me, but it did. It was one day, I don't remember what it was. I was on a guard duty, like still in the wire, but way out, like where nobody was. And in the distance, like we hear like fucking thundering, and then like a fucking big ass boom. And I look off in the distance. The guy that I'm with is another National Guard guy. He's like sitting there, take breaks on and off of sleeping, whatever. And I look over, and miles away, like there's this big ass fucking plume of smoke, and I'm like, holy shit! Like I think that was just a fucking bomb that went off. And he gets up and he's like, holy shit! That is a bomb that just went off. Like I thought I was fucking seeing shit, but it was a no shit bomb, and like it was surreal. You know, I don't know what the hell they bombed or what the purpose was of that, but that was definitely a sight to see, I will say. Um, and lastly, let's say you hear ghost stories of that region, and I was sort of skeptical about it, but after being in Syria and walking in the middle of nowhere at night, like I am pretty. I don't know if it's sleep deprivation or what, but I'm 100% sure I saw two red glowing eyes staring at me through the fucking at the guard tower. Like that place gave me the heebie-jeebies. Like Iraq wasn't bad, but Syria was like a whole nother fucking thing. Like the hair on my neck stood up almost every night, and I'm pretty sure I saw fucking something that wasn't human that night. Um, and then the first time I heard the Iraqi prayer at night, which was like right when we got there, it scared the shit out of me. Like nobody told me about that, and me and this other female were walking together to the gym, and we're like, "Holy shit, what is that? Like, are we about to die, or somebody about to like suicide bomb our ass?" Or it's it's scary once you hear it for the first time, but hearing it now, it's sort of like it brings peace almost. Like that's the good stuff. That's the good memories right there. Like I would give anything to be back there for as hard of a time as it was, and as long of a pain in the ass that it was. I would give anything to be back there. Um, it's it's hard to explain for people that aren't in the military or haven't been deployed, but it was definitely a highlight of my life for sure. Probably in more bad ways than good, but hope you guys enjoyed that a little bit. It's just a little bit of a rundown, not too much of the details of what I went through. That was that was bad, but I don't want this whole podcast to be sad. I want it to be chill. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Gonna be back soon with substance abuse, I believe. So stay tuned for that. Thank you guys for watching. Catch you on the next one.